Live stream is on.
Right, live streaming is on. We should now be streaming. And there's Chris, as if by magic. Now, hopefully, now that we're live streaming, when you press on the link, it won't just have us talking about testing the live stream, which would be better, wouldn't it?
Greetings. It takes a while to...
Hey, Chris.
Hiya.
So we are apparently live streaming, but I'm not sure. It's got just a video of me talking about live streaming at the moment. So do we need to set up a new...
Yeah, no, just trust it. Just run with it.
No, it's
catch
going,
up.
Johnny.
Is it going? All right, okay. All right, I'm gonna be really posh. And
as the hostess.
Yeah, that
hostess,
whole conversation that we've just had is all going out now.
You're right, brilliant. Is it working? Is it? Oh no! All right, I'm going to be really techie first and tell the shed to turn the lights on because I've got no light switch, so I can't think of another way other than just being nerdy and going, Alexa, turn on the office lights. Hey!
Oh,
dear.
But that's the price you pay. The price I pay is kind of probably the loss of my civil liberty and people listening in to my conversations. But given the caliber of conversations that go on in here, it's probably not a problem. Anyway,
I seem to have lost the video for. Is that just me? For Chris and Dave and Graham.
Yeah, I think we're all hot to trot. That might be your.
Yeah. Does it come back, Steve? It's because I wasn't moving. Jitsy's very clever. If you don't move it,
You've got to dance around. Got to dance.
Right, there's only 3 people watching the live stream, so
we're all good. And that's probably us.
It's us, basically.
5 people watching. Well, maybe I should just... Oh, hang on. Oh, there you go. Yeah, someone has said superb. I don't know. Will the comments come up? If we say... Yeah,
I can handle the comments.
And then we know if people are here. But anyway, welcome, dear friends. And anyone who happens to be listening in who got wind this might be happening.
Who's got wind?
Anyone who's got wind. To this evening, we have another theme. We're that organised that we have a theme. And tonight we're going to talk a bit about rough music, which is great. And we've got an archive recording done by our very own Christorian, Mr. Chris Hare. I'm going to do some technical jiggery-pokery that means we can listen in on a recording that he made. When did you make that, Chris?
1998, I think.
1998. So it's already a historical document of a historical event. So we'll be playing that. And then we're going to talk about smuggling. And Chris has got some juicy history nuggets. For Chris to chow down on. And actually, we've got a side serving of history gums from Yapton as well, in the form of Graham. So that'll be good. And then I'm going to sing a song, Yapton and Forward Through the Ages. Yeah, classic tone. If you haven't got that already, good luck getting it. Only one copy and Graham got it. And then we're going to also talk more generally about anything else we can think of to talk about. So, no, we're going to talk about lawlessness in general. I think we're going to talk about thievery. And Steve's going to sing about thievery. And
Jack Upperton.
I don't know what you mean.
And Jack Upperton as well. Highwaymen. So loads of stuff about people doing naughty things. Lawless.
Eliza's in the chat. So hi, Eliza. How are you doing?
Evening, Eliza. How lovely. Look, enough, it's a regular gig, isn't it? 6 people?
That's pretty good for us.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, here's what we're going to do first, is I'm going to ask Chris to do a bit of a preamble to the rough music interview, and then I'm going to play it through my computer.
Okay.
Through your computer.
Yeah.
Right then. Yes. So rough music. And if anyone doesn't know what rough music is, it was what people did before there were ASBOs or crime protection officers or whatever they're called. It was a particular form of community justice where someone in the village had upset the other villagers. And usually that was something that couldn't easily be prosecuted under law anyway. So, and it was often a man who'd been assaulting his wife or parents, ill-treating children, and sometimes it could be the baker who was putting too much yeast in the bread, or the brewer who was watering the beer, that sort of thing. And they get this community justice called rough music, where people would assemble at night, men and boys with blackened faces, black with charcoal, and they would go around making an awful noise with tin cans, old tin trays, milk churns, anything that can make an awful noise, and they would chant. And most people, old people that I interviewed all those years ago, didn't remember what the chant was, but there was one lady in Bury, and she remembered the chant, and she wrote a letter to the West Sussex Gazette in 1954. So she's remembering back to the 1880s probably. Whether or not this had a tune, I don't know. She just said, these are the verses they used to holler out. There is a man lives in this place. He beat his wife, a sad disgrace. He beat her black, he beat her blue. He made her poor bones rattle too. Now, if this man don't mend his manners, we'll have to send him to the tanners. And if the tanner don't tan him well, we'll nail him on a nail in hell. And if the nail should chance to crack, he'll fall upon the devil's back. And should the devil chance to run, we'll shoot him with this fiery gun. You'd think that would put the fear of God into most people. But if it didn't work, they'd come back a second time with an effigy of the person, which they'd burn outside their house. And if that didn't work, the third time, they'd literally grab hold of them, break into the property, grab hold of them, throw them onto a cart, ceremoniously take them to the parish border, and then chuck them in a ditch. And the clear thing then was, you don't come back.
So when did this? When did this take place, Chris? Were there? Was there a starting point and an end point, or is it just a kind of? Well, I don't know. Are there dates for this?
What time in history it happened, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, from the earliest times up until the 1880s, and in some places it even went on later than that. I think parts of Wiltshire, it was still taking place in the 50s. So,
good old Wiltshire.
Good old Wiltshire. They don't.
Yeah,
they don't
pleased to be. Yeah.
So
Well,
what
rock music outside that Cummings press conference the other day.
Oh yeah, you could hear it, couldn't you, in the background?
Yeah. So there's still certainly a legacy there for any miscreants.
The trouble is, you made Cummings.
What interested me?
If you made Cummings in an effigy, you wouldn't really be able to tell the effigy from the person, would you? Really, it would be very difficult.
You might accidentally set fire to him, is what you're suggesting, though.
I don't think he can burn, actually.
So what interested me particularly was the idea that the police force and the local councils would not really. There wasn't a tradition of getting involved in any kind of domestic violence or domestic incidents.
Exactly.
And there almost seems to be a culture within villages and small towns to take that in hand themselves.
That's it. Yeah. Exactly. And even if the police wanted to intervene, some of these, especially in towns, the rough music mob could be several hundred strong. So if you got like Worthing in the 1850s, when the population of Worthing was only 7,000, and you've got 300 or 400 men and boys, and then you've only got 6 policemen in the town, they're not going to turn. They're not going to turn up there, are they? They're going to be somewhere else.
So there's a chance then that the police would inform the rough music crew and say, look, there's this stuff going on. You know,
I don't
could
think
you
so.
do something
No.
about it? No?
No, these sort of guys wouldn't have anything to do with the police. They would not have been friendly to the police or want anything to do with them
No,
at
right.
all. Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough. Well, shall I see if I can play this fantastic interview that you did?
I'll just say a bit about the guy as well.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah,
man
go
is
for
his actual name was Victor Kinnard, but he was known to everyone as Nobby Kinnard. And actually, Anne came across him first when she did an interview for the West Sussex Gazette about this old woodman who'd spent his whole life working in Clapham Woods. And I went down to meet him, and it was just like last the summer wine. There were these 4 or 5 old men who went down this wood yard, and they'd just talk about the old days. And they'd all been born either just before or during the First World War. So this was the 1980s I'm talking about. So they were old then, and obviously they're all dead now. But the one with the most character and verve was Nobby, and he was full of stories and anecdotes. And he said his father took part in the last rough music in Clapham Village in 1915, and so this is him describing it. But if you hopefully people understand his accent, because he's got the old Sussex accent. But if you can understand him, you'll see there's a bit of a twist in the tale at the end.
Well, I'm hoping that you better hear it over the internet. We'll give it a try. Here we go.
Mute, Johnny.
Yeah, we sort of tested this earlier, and this was the best way of doing it. So,
Right, here we go. So, here we are. This is the South Downs Generations website, and here is the rough music bit. There's a great picture, isn't it? That's brilliant. And then down here we have this interview. Here we go.
When they used to have the rough music.
Oh, yeah, well, that'd be interesting. If
You remember that, don't you?
you could tell us about that and when it was.
Well, that was in 1915. I think the last one I can remember was in 1915, the rough music, where my father was captain of this group, and what they used to do, because the police never interfered then, they used to go round to the house where the man or husband was knocking the wife about, and they used to give him rough music. They used to march up and down outside his house with a trumpet or whatever they could have to call, and call him all the names, etc., etc. And on this occasion, what I can remember, I can just remember it, but I didn't know really what it was all about. But my mum told me, because when you get someone going up and down outside here, where it only happened over there, when the old houses were there, and when Mum told me about it, I could see the funny side of it. But what happened was, in real life, what actually happened in my time was this chap over the road lived there. His name was Mr. Short, and he'd upset his wife and knocked her bed a bit. And I thought the best thing to do is give him some rough music, because the police didn't want to get intervened with this sort of thing. So my dad got his gang up together, and they used to go from here to Angland times and Patching. And they decided what time to march up and down outside here, and Dad had one of them big trumpet with a big thing on. It was very embarrassing when they'd been out there about 10 minutes. Old Mrs. Short come out and entered her jury in his trumpet, you know, and anyway, they went on and on and on. This chap there, their faces black, you see, because you got to know who's who. And on this particular occasion, I'm telling you, my father was marching up and down talking to someone. He'd hear their voices like you know mine. And he said to this chap, he said, what's the time, boy? He said, oh, it's about something like 8:45. And Dad said, well, I expect we ought to give him about another 10 minutes. So his chap said to Dad, give him a quarter an hour and then we'll all disperse, you see. So anyway, Dad listened to him and gave him, because there's about 18 or 19 of these people, all the old woodmen they were. And the language is all that good then, woodman's language. And he said to this chap, what's time then, boy? And he said, it's just on the quarter, Mr. Kinnard. Well, he said, we're packing now, and Dad said. And he said to him, well, now you can tell me who you are now. Been up and down. He said, I'm the bloke that's been knocking that woman about. Oh my giddy aunt. And he'd been calling them all names and things all the evening, the young man. So that's what I can go back as far as that, when they had rough mood, what we call rough mood.
And that was the end of it, was it? The last time?
Well, that's the last time I can remember. But whether people does this sort of thing today, I don't know. I shouldn't think they would.
I don't think so.
No, because the police shoot to close their eyes to it.
There were a couple of things that jumped out at me there, if I'm honest with you. One was, did he say that the lady came out and put all of her jewellery in his trumpet?
No, I think she emptied out her piss pot into his trumpet. Because the thing is, of course, the allegation might not have been true. That's the other thing, isn't it?
Sounds like somebody confessed to it at the end.
Oh, well, yeah. Unless he was just joking around. I don't know. I mean, obviously, sometimes it was in deadly seriousness, but you think sometimes, supposing that bloke had pissed off the men at work, and they'll think, oh, we'll give him some rough music.
Yeah. Come up with some jumped up charge. And
yeah, I don't think there was a rough music tribunal that sat down and decided on the merits of the case.
I'm wondering whether should we proceed? Yeah.
But I guess it probably did make people be aware, that their behaviour was being watched, and if they obviously went too far, there'd be repercussions.
Absolutely, but I mean, it would take a lot of bravery, because I suppose in many ways, as it does now, it takes a lot of bravery for a wife to actually speak up and say, this is what's happening to me. So I suppose
depends how you find out, though, doesn't it? I mean, it could be the wife talking to one of her friends and confiding in her friend, and her friend talks to somebody else in the village, and before you know where you are, you've got 20 geezers outside your house using woodsman's language, whatever that is.
Well, it's nice to think of a community sort of check and balance on your behaviour. I think that's probably quite a welcome thing. You're still muted,
well,
Dave. Dave, you're still muted.
Muted, Dave.
Well, it's the community justice aspect of it that grabs me. People who actually are caring for, looking out for the people in their community, and actually taking action in a sort of very local way. I think that's sort of admirable. But whether you do it in the same way anymore, I don't know. But people being held to account like that, I think it could be quite a powerful thing.
Yeah, it's still good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's interesting. I think it's really interesting in that, how do you then, I suppose, what's the regulation on that? And maybe it's just if the group's big enough, then it will sort of average out that it's somewhere in line with the village's morals, and that you don't just end up being the people's front of Judea, and just generally being, well, this mob or that mob, or
Yeah. Wow.
I think psychologically the big difference between then and now is that then the attitude is, what are we going to do about this? Whereas the attitude now is more like to be, what are they going to do about it? The police, the social services, people, why haven't they done something? Whereas back then it's like, well, there's no one to do anything if we don't. So
Yeah.
Yeah, anarchism.
Well,
Graham, Steve left, anarchists.
We still need to have the full anarchy chat, Graham, at some point.
Another time, another time.
We'll have an anarchy themed
We can
Pint by the pond.
Yeah, exactly.
Another
Yeah.
week, another
We'll have a
Pint
pint by the pond. Anarchy will be the thing.
I'm sure.
Oh, there's probably room in that for some. There's something in that, you know.
I'm sure, Chris, you probably know some anarchist songs, don't you?
I do. And the Ballad of Joe Hill, Sacco and Vanzetti. Yeah. And the
Give us
things you can get
give us anarchist song. I mean, we might be going off pace here, but you know.
Yeah, you know, it's because I'm. This is because I'm leading it. I need to sort of. I need a gavel. I need a gavel.
Well,
He's back to order. But we're going to next talk
we're up
about.
16 people watching now, mate.
Shh, Steve. Shh. Right. Good.
Johnny, you can mute Steve if you want.
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah. Chris,
Yeah.
is Joe Hill, the Ballad of Joe Hill, is that I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that tale. I love that song.
It's an amazing song. And he then wrote, when he was in prison waiting execution, he wrote a song about this woman who'd been one of his comrades, and it's called The Rebel Girl. And that's a great song. I'll send that round to you as email link. But the Wobblies wrote loads of great songs.
I saw Willard White a few years ago, and he was doing a tribute to Paul Robeson.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Paul Robeson used to sing that as well. So yeah, it's incredible.
He did, yeah.
I never died. Say. Yeah. Okay.
So apparently I've just been informed by my technical support that Dave's a bit quiet, and also I can't.
No one's ever said
That's
that.
my
before.
Dave, quiet.
I like. We have our nicknames for each other.
Quiet Dave, as we call him.
Quiet Dave, yeah. And also
Dave.
saying, you know, that the tile view, which I thought I had,
Yeah.
it's not going out like that to the feed. It's going out as the whole screen to the person who's talking view. But I don't know why that is. Anyway, sorry it's doing that, but it just is. I don't know how to change it. So smuggling is the next thing we're going to talk about. And we were going to talk about smuggling locally, and we were going to talk about smuggling more broadly. But I wondered whether it would be good to get Graham to tell us about smuggling around his hometown.
Well, yes. So, Chris, obviously you wrote a book about smuggling, didn't you?
Did Chris write a book?
Chris wrote a book.
It might be worth a look. Yeah.
I'm not reading from Chris's smuggling book. I'm reading from the Yapton and Ford Through the Ages, local publication of the Yapton and Ford local history group, which Chris, you've been to.
I've spoken to, yeah.
I've seen you speak there. So for people who aren't aware, I live in Yapton. Yapton's a village between Littlehampton and Bognor Regis. It's been here for a long time. It's got a great old church. It's got a bad reputation, but we'll gloss over that. So what I want to talk about is there's a saying when people leave their door open or a door open, people would say, "Do you come from Yapton?" And now there's two theories about where that phrase came from, and they're both related to smuggling. So the sort of main one that I think a lot of people associate it with is that during the smuggling times, people in Yapton would leave their doors open so that the smugglers could escape from the customs and excise men by running through the houses, so that they could get away and escape. And the other version of where that came from is what I'm going to cover now. and it's actually an excerpt from another book called The Ghost in the Mirror by Patricia Squires. And this little chapter is called Ghost at the Homestead Visitation. Many of the Acton villagers were engaged in the act of smuggling over the centuries. One of these people was a landlord of a Yapton tavern, and he also happened to be the leader of the Yapton smuggling gang. Not only was he the innkeeper, a smuggler, but he was also the head of a local watch committee, formed to help the customs and excise officers to stamp out smuggling. At the same time, there was a gang of smugglers at Climping, and they were expecting a large consignment of contraband to be landed at Climping Beach. The leader of the Climping gang paid his Yapton counterpart a small fortune to create a diversion to occupy the customs men elsewhere to allow the illicit cargo to be landed without being discovered. This was duly done, but as the Climping smugglers were carting the goods away, they were fell upon by the Yapton gang, killed, and their booty was stolen. Because dead men tell no lies, the Yapton landlord received a reward for apprehending the smugglers, as well as having the proceeds from the selling of the contraband. Unbeknown to the Yapton leader, the Climping gang leader had escaped and came looking for his revenge. To do this, he had to first overcome the huge, ferocious black dog which accompanied the innkeeper everywhere. With the help of a couple of friends, he managed to accomplish this and chained the beast in a barn. The Yapton man was then forced into the same barn where he was tortured and killed in front of his dog. Then his dog was beaten to death. It is said that the ghost of the innkeeper wanders around Yapton trying to help people to ease his conscience, while the dog spends eternity trying to find the killer of his master. Is this the reason why it is said that people of Yapton leave their doors open to allow the dog in to search for the Climping man? Now the story moves forward to the spring of 1956. Fred Charis, on retiring, moved down from London to Yapton in search of a plot of land on which to build his retirement home. He was out walking one night at about 9:30 p.m. along an unlit road with hedges on the right-hand side interspersed with the tall elm trees. On the left-hand side of the road ran a high wall broken occasionally by a cottage or two. It was not long before he realised he could hear music coming from somewhere ahead of him. The source he discovered was the cottage laying a little way back from the road on the left-hand side. On closer inspection, all he could see was a weak, whitish glow emanating from the curtainless windows. Fred continued on his way, but was surprised to realise that although he had travelled quite a considerable distance, he could still clearly hear the music, which should have faded away. He turned and started retracing his steps. It was at that point he was attacked by a massive, snarling black dog. After starting to run away, Fred realised he would not be able to outrun the animal, so taking the only course of action open to him, he turned to face the beast with only his torch as a weapon, only to find the dog had disappeared. His flight had taken him back to the cottage, but this time it was in total darkness and quiet. Fred decided to knock on the door, but there was no reply. The place looked empty and deserted. As he turned to leave, a man dressed in clothes from another century barred his path. He was tall and thin, with deeply drawn face and bulging eyes. His hair was long and matted, and he wore knee-length trousers and no shoes. The stranger would not move out of the way, so Fred went to push him aside, but his hands found no resistance, passing right through the man. This, of course, caused Fred to stumble ahead into the body of the strange man. At this point, it felt as if his head had turned to a block of ice, and Fred blacked out. When he regained consciousness, he was lying on the ground with the black dog towering over him, with his front legs passing through Fred's body and his jaws trying to bite Fred's neck. A noise from the road disturbed the dog, who promptly sprang off into the darkness. Now, is it a coincidence that at the bottom of North End Road there used to be a pub called the Black Dog? The smuggler was an innkeeper, and North End Road has a high wall on the left-hand side and used to have a hedge on the right-hand side before the road was widened.
Nice.
There you go.
Wrapped in that. That's a well told.
Brilliant.
That's a good spooky story.
Why did the dog go for that poor guy? He must have looked like the Klimping guy.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Well, I'm not sure. Now, there's other versions of that story where the black dog is owned by is tied into the the Hawkhurst gang, Chris.
Yeah.
So there's another version where they tie it up with the Hawkhurst and what was the other gang? Is it the Hawkhurst?
Well, there was the Groombridge gang and the Mayfield. They were the ones at that time. But yeah, Yapton's got a lot of smuggling history.
Yeah,
probably more than any other village in that part of Sussex, I think.
Yeah, it's probably still has, to be honest.
and in because I'm gonna sing that Smuggler's Victory song that I found, but you reckon that sounds quite authentic, Chris?
Yeah, yes. So yeah, the song you found is just there are songs that have been written about smuggling, but they've been written years and years after smuggling finished. The McCallums do a song about smuggling, and Kipling did a poem about smuggling that Peter Bellamy put to music. But that song you found was from the time, and it uses phrases and words that you just know make it authentic. And it talks about the preventive men, doesn't it? And it says, the Philistines. It calls them the Philistines.
Yeah.
Well, no modern person would think of using that phrase, but of course, in those days, 200 years ago, that was quite a commonly used phrase of disrespect and contempt.
So, Chris, my brother a couple of days ago. I'm talking about what we were going to be thinking about tonight, and the fact that there are no songs about smuggling. He was absolutely indignant. Oh, there must be. And also because there are songs about everything.
Yeah. Well, it turns out there is this one which I found, but it didn't have a tune attached to it. So I sort of grabbed it's a Johnny Fill Up the Bowl, which is it's an American song, isn't it? Isn't it like
Johnny Comes Home, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but it's anyway. It doesn't really matter, does it? Just as long as it fits the words. The words are good. So shall I sing this song?
Yeah.
All right. Should you mute?
Mute. Yeah.
Mute yourselves, then, lads.
Mute yourself.
Mute yourselves. All right. Here we go. Oh, you can't say hooray. That's going to be a bit of I'm going to have to shout hooray loudly. Come, all you Sussex heroes, with courage stout and bold, and listen unto these lines I've penned, which quickly I'll unfold. It's of a glorious victory was fought the other day between a party of preventive men and smugglers brave. Hooray! On the 27th November, boys, from Boulogne we set sail, bound for the Sussex coast on a sweet and pleasant gale. And when we came to land, brave boys, our vessels we hove to. Our tugboats then we set on land, though our company was but few. It was near the town of Bognor, our tubs we tried to land. But soon we were surrounded by a band of preventive men. With cutlasses and firearms they began to fire away. But our party with their bats, my boys, began to thrash away. The preventive men ran on the beach, thinking they had a prize. But the Sussex heroes with their bats began to tan their hides. The preventive men said to each other, here is a rich prize. About 100 tubs of spirits, tea, tobacco likewise. Besides, if we can take the men, you know there's £20. So we'll swear black is white, my boys, don't care who sinks or drowns. Then like the savage tigers, those Philistines did run. With cutlasses and firearms, their bloody work begun. 2 of our men they shot and wounded 3 more. But from the beach we took them up, all in their bloody gore. The preventive men ran on the beach, thinking they had a prize. But the Sussex heroes with their bats began to tan their hides. Our party, seeing 2 men shot, the signal then was gave. Determined for to fight, my boys, and cargo for to save. The preventive men, seeing them fall, thought they'd got the day. But in less than 10 minutes, those Philistines ran away. The preventive men ran on the beach, thinking they had a prize. But the Sussex heroes with their bats began to tan their hides. The preventive men took to their heels, and some on the beach did lay, while every man took up his tub and boldly walked away. The preventive men stood weeping, you'd have laughed if you'd been there, to see those Philistines, how they began to shed their tears. The preventive man ran on the beach, thinking they had a prize, but the Sussex heroes with their bats began to tan their hides. And now my song is ended, I will conclude my tale, and drink to all fair traders with a thumping glass of ale, and down with all informers, so merrily let us sing. Success to our wives and sweethearts, and God save the King. The preventive men ran on the beach, thinking they had a prize, but the Sussex heroes with their bats began to tan their hides.
Hey.
Arr.
Well done, Johnny.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you.
Nice. What did you say that is the tune of? Because I always think of the animals went into the ark.
I think it's a song called Johnny Fill Up the Bowl.
Yeah, Theru, all that.
Yeah. I think I can't remember. It's maybe from the Civil War.
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
The bowl. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I don't know. Yes. Something like that. When Johnny comes watching home, that sort of thing. Yeah. It's always it's quite a good name to have for shanties and traditional songs. There's so many Johnny songs. We have a Johnny evening. I could kind of Pint by the pond. I could just talk about my life, and then we could just.
It just sounds a bit wrong though. A Johnny evening. Yeah.
I have one of those with my technical advisor sometimes.
It's I think it's too open to interpretation, mate. That's
Yeah,
the
well,
problem.
fair enough. Yeah.
Dave, could you do me a favour? Could
Yeah.
you refresh your page, log out of the room and log back in again? Because I'm wondering whether that might impact on your volume.
Okay.
Ah,
That's a bit rude.
now he's gone.
You would be quiet.
Oh, he's back. Stop talking about him now.
Is that better?
It is a bit better.
I think it is actually. Yeah, that is a bit clearer. So,
It's not, it's not often I have to apologise for being too quiet.
I know. Well, hopefully it won't be too long.
It is strange, isn't it? That is a song about smuggling. It's the only song that I think is authentic from the period. And part of my I was thinking, why is that? And I think, is it because the folk song collectors, when they went around, the old people weren't going to sing them songs that were lewd or erotic, and they weren't going to sing them songs that were disrespectful or against authority. But against that is the fact there's so many poaching songs.
Right, yeah.
I mean, there's whole albums of poaching songs, and that's just as against the law. So it is really odd.
Is there something to do with like a romanticism? I would have thought that smuggling would be painted in a more romantic light than with Rudyard Kipling and everything, more than poaching.
Yeah, poaching, because the smugglers at the time thought that they were completely justified. They didn't see what
the community did as well, right? I mean, a lot they were supported by the communities.
So they must have had songs. They must have done, but they've been lost.
Yeah, you got to keep it on the down low, haven't you? You got to keep it undercover. But then I would have thought that poaching would have been the same, really.
It was, yeah. But
yeah, I'm sure they thought they were right. I mean, it's still the same in Little Hampton today.
Would there have been something to do with the smuggling? That's customs and excise. That's actual government, whereas the poaching would have been taken from local landowners. So it's sort of like the commoners, as it were, having their sort of ha.
Yeah,
we all know about it. We're all in on it, but it's only affecting that landowner or that landowner what happens to be, whereas the smuggling was more customs and excise. So you're playing with sort of against a bigger fish, a bigger shark. I don't know.
it could be that. It could be that.
Was
Or
it
it
about
could-
rewards? I mean, were there rewards for smugglers to catch them, more than poachers?
Yeah, they all had rewards. Actually, I'm thinking about it. The reason might be possibly because most of the folk song collecting didn't really start to the 1880s, and smuggling had, in the old form, had pretty much died out by the 1840s. So maybe the men who sang the smuggling songs had died, and because it wasn't carrying on anymore, it wasn't relevant, so no one carried on singing them. Whereas poaching was still carrying on. Well, still probably today.
Yeah, that's true.
It is still carried on, yeah.
Yeah.
So that might be the reason, I think.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, glad we ticked that off. Right?
Yeah.
Between us, we've sorted out a big historical query. That's good.
I've just realised, Steve, that song has the same tune as a song that we failed to learn properly.
Yeah, it does.
A recruiting sergeant came our way at the inn near town at the break of day. He said, "Young John, you're a fine young man."
I think they did the same thing.
Yeah.
I think that is they bolted on.
Cruel Wars, that's it.
Yeah, but I think
your Polly, the road has just begun. Yeah,
because it's two separate, distinct songs, isn't it? And that first bit is quite distinct from the. I wonder if they've done a similar thing and retrofitted a tune to an old broadside or something.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about thieves or do you want to talk about prisons, or do you want to talk about highwaymen?
Highwaymen? Well, prisons?
Prisons. Let's talk about prisons.
Prisons. So,
we don't. I'm not sure how much I have to talk about prisons. I mean, obviously, there's the song, and
Chris might have.
So the only prisons there were really before the 19th century were really debtors' prisons. So if you got into debt, you went into a debtors' prison. Otherwise, the punishments were things like the stocks, the pillory, and if it was serious, you got executed, or you got transported to the West Indies or America or Australia. So it was only the Victorian times really got the modern idea of prisons, that people who committed crimes would be locked up in a cell for a set number of years.
Yeah. So Steve's going to sing a song about prisons, and in it mentions two things that I wonder if either of you want to elaborate on. So one of them is it talks about oaken picking.
Yeah, that's the point.
And it talks about the old
picking. Yeah.
The old treadmill it talks about as well.
Oh yeah.
I wondered if you fancied elaborating on oakum picking.
That
me?
Yeah.
See?
I think we'll pass it on to Chris, won't we?
All right, okay.
You weren't implying that you've actually done oakum picking, were you?
No, I'm not. Yeah, from your own experience of oakum picking.
Well, I had a particularly busy summer in Maidstone one year, which was a bit oaken picking, but apart from that.
I mean, how I understand it is that you have one of the sort of jobs that they would give inmates to do was they'd get these enormous bits of old rope.
Yeah.
Get money for old ropes. They would pick apart these tightly bound old ropes and then break them down into tiny fibres that they could then use for, actually on ships, which is a nice. There's a shanty. That's about as close to a shanty as we're going to get this evening. But then the fibre from these ropes, so it'd be horrible on your fingers. It's like what I can imagine how like grotty a job that would be. Just you get that horrible thing when you've been untying knots and
all day, every day.
Yeah. And the treadmill. That was just. I suppose it was a great big wheel that you walked on. So I suppose a bit like a treadmill in the gym, except this was circular, a bit like a water
hamster wheel.
Yeah, hamster wheel. Yeah. That's exactly what it was like. Yeah. And the guards could crank it up to make it harder going if they wanted. And they'd have to do a certain number of revolutions. I don't know, 500, 1,000, or whatever it was.
Did it do anything? Did it contribute to anything?
No. It didn't make electricity or anything like that.
Like it might sort of make bread or
No. It's just a punishment. And before Lewes Prison was opened, I think Lewes Prison was opened in 1852, and before that it was at Petworth, the Petworth House of Correction, and that had a treadmill, and so you often see like a man sentenced to 2 weeks in the House of Correction with treadmill. So it was very much a sort of short, sharp shock. They don't, like they'd send people there just for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Just a horrible few weeks.
Yeah.
Think about what you've done.
Because they wouldn't want to put them away for too long because they need them back on the fields working.
Right, yeah.
All right.
So, Steve, now that we know what oaken picking is, and now we know what treadmills are, all we need is a song.
Well, then mute yourselves and I'll do my best.
All right.
I noticed that Kevin and Wendy are in the chat, who are a couple of friends of mine that are now in Wakefield that used to live in Littlehampton. So, being as you're in Wakefield, you probably know quite a bit about oaken picking and treadmills and stuff. So this one's for you. So, I wish there was no prisons. I do, don't you? 'Cause the old treadmill makes me feel ill. I only steal my belly for to fill with me hands, with me fists, with me maulers. I met this girl with a perambulator. She had twins, each one had a tater in his hand, in his fist, in his maulers. I leant into that perambulator, kissed one twin and nicked the other's tater with me hands, with me fists, with me maulers. I wish there was no prisons. I do, don't you? 'Cause the old treadmill makes me feel ill. I only steal my belly for to fill with me hands, with me fists, with me maulers. Only been to church twice. Once was to wed, the other was at night. I came home with some lead in me hands, in me fists, in me maulers. I sold that lead to a kid called Ivor. He'd fixed his scale, so I only got a fiver in me hands, in me fists, in me maulers. I wish there was no prisons. I do, don't you? 'Cause the old treadmill makes me feel ill. I only steal my belly for to fill with me hands, with me fists, with me maulers. Now oaken picking's given me a licking, but still I like to do a bit of nicking with me hands, with me fists, with me maulers. The probation officer was giving me a rocket, but while he did, I was in and out his pocket with me hands, with me fists, with me maulers. I wish there was no prisons. I do, don't you? 'Cause the old treadmill makes me feel ill. I only steal my belly for to fill with me hands, with me fists, with me maulers. I saw this girl, I went and stood beside her. She wanted 20 quid, but I only had a fiver in me hands, in me fists, me maulers. I forgot all about her when I went to bed. When I laid down, I remembered what she said. Use your hands, use your fists, use your maulers. I wish there was no prisons. I do, don't you? 'Cause the old treadmill makes me feel ill. I only steal my belly for to fill with me hands, with me dukes, with me maulers.
Yeah. Very nice. I'm so itching to join in.
Yeah, that's a bit more music hall, that one, I must admit. An old Harry Champion song, who is, the author of some great music hall tracks like "Get Me to the Church on Time" and "My Old Man's a Dustman" and stuff like that. I suppose I've become more interested in that as I have hung around you guys, and you've become more interested in your local history and Sussex local history, and I'm in Sussex, and then I'm thinking, well, actually, I'm from Dagenham, and I've sort of got this bit of interest sort of growing in what some of the old music hall songs were. So now I can understand why my dad used to sing the songs he did. So,
Steve,
yeah,
what are core blimey trousers?
Core blimey trousers.
Yeah.
Oh, Dustman wears.
I have no idea what core blimey trousers are, but if I saw them in a market stall, I would buy a pair.
There's such a great line. He wears core blimey trousers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think time in my life when I would have worn cool blimey trousers, I think. Those days are gone. No more cool blimey trousers for me. Have you learned any more musical songs, Steve? Have you?
I've got a couple in the pipeline. I have got a couple in the pipeline, but I get easily distracted, unfortunately. I think there needs to be one or two more, especially because when we're doing, live gigs and stuff, it's nice if we can have a bit of that interspersed, isn't it? Sort of change the vibe a little bit, do some different things, especially as we're now getting to the point of starting to do longer sets.
Yeah.
We're going to need to be able to have different sort of phases, aren't we?
Definitely. I just got a text from Ben, who is watching, and he said he really likes that one. He said it was really good. He liked it.
Go on. Text coming in.
Because from
Thanks very much, Ben. Little cock you're trying to get out of Ben.
From the 1st of June, 6 people can meet, can't they? So that means we could have outdoor concerts with one member of the audience.
We can do private concerts.
Yeah.
This is now turning into a Tina Turner song, isn't it?
Well, over to you, Dave. If you want to do the honour, if you want to kick out a bit of Tina now, then
I've got the dress.
Yeah,
The dress.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I've admired it many a time. Oh, marvelous! So that's thievery dealt with, or in fact, prisons and thievery, and then also Chris has done some research into something that so when I was growing up, we used to go down to Blakehurst and go to the Bluebell Woods down there. And that was, whenever anyone talks about Bluebell Woods, I immediately assume they're talking about those Bluebell Woods, because there aren't any others. Those are the Bluebell Woods. But there was always this kind of mysterious bit called Gibbet Hill, and there was this gibbet, or like supposedly a gibbet there. I never really knew what a gibbet was until I was quite a bit older. And then I didn't know anything. All I knew was that there was a post there, kind of iron post, with a wooden sign that had a J and a U, and then a little sign of like a hanging, like you do in Hangman. And
are you able to show a picture of it, Johnny, on your screen? With your share screen?
No. Well, I can. Yes, I can, because it's on the website, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on the website. Yeah.
Is it on the blog? Is it on the blog bit?
I think if you go to the homepage,
yeah,
it's now under folklore, but on the homepage there should be a direct link to the Jack Upperton story.
All right, I'm coming to it now. I'm just getting it. Jack Upperton. Here we go. Yeah, I'll now share the page.
You're going to share your gibbet?
Right, hang on. Here we go. There.
This is
there. I'm sharing.
South Narrations. Where
is that actually my picture, Chris?
It is your picture. Yeah.
I didn't notice a credit underneath, but that's fine.
Oh,
no
busted.
Take all the royalties myself.
I know, you're probably rolling in it now, just thanks to that. Look at the beautiful Laura's watching this going, that's a terrible picture. You didn't
That's
even
the job. That's the job.
But
And
anyway,
also, I realised, looking at the picture more closely, that it's still got the original Lawrence Grayburn iron post, I think.
yeah, I think it is the original post. They just changed the kind of the wooden bit at the top, because it was just a very simple kind of well, you can even see it in that old picture, can't you?
Yeah, that one, yeah.
Yeah. Like when I was a kid, I remember that block of wood with a JU, but that's been recently, within the last couple of years, it must have been replaced with this one. But it's a similar idea, just this nice little, lovely little pattern of a couple of gallows and then the 1771 underneath. But I always had kind of romantic notions of who the highwayman was. I had exactly like that picture. I had the image of a kind of, like a guy with a tricorn hat and a couple of pistols and holding up a stagecoach. But it's an altogether kind of more depressing story, isn't it? Really, Chris?
It is. Yeah. Well, I mean, your song really tells the story. I think.
Yeah.
I think sing your song, and then we can add anything that's not in there. But I think you've got the whole. It's an old man, isn't it? It's an old man of 60 who's got no work, he's got no money, so he thinks he'll rob the postboy coming over the hill into Arundel. And it all goes badly wrong for him.
Yeah. This is the depressing one. All right, here we go. Hidden down deep within the bluebells, not much of a distance from the track, stands an iron post in memorandum to old Upperton, to old Jack. Grown too old to earn a crust through labour, desperation crept upon his back, barely more than crusts upon his table. Poor old Upperton, poor old Jack. Driven to try his chances on the highway, Upperton resolved upon a plan to claim what he could wrestle from the postboy. Poor old Upperton, poor old Jack. Hidden down deep within the bluebells, Jack's heart beat in time with the postboy's mare. He struck and stole and beat the postboy senseless. Poor young postboy, poor young boy. For 6 months the crime remained unanswered, but guilty burden weighed down on Jack's breast, and to his friends his guilty heart unburdened. Poor old Upperton, poor old Jack. Sold out by some yellow-hearted Judas, Upperton was dragged before the judge, who mercilessly strung him up in Horsham. Poor old Upperton, poor old Jack. Gathering there amongst the bluebells, Burtham's villagers watched him lifted high. They tarred and barred and hung him in a gibbet. Poor old Upperton, poor old Jack. Hidden down deep within the bluebells, with flowers laid by someone at the foot, stands an iron post in memorandum to old Upperton, to old Jack. Poor old Upperton, poor old Jack.
Wow.
Top draw, Johnny.
That really is. That's great. That so conveys everything about that era and that man, I think.
Gave me the old tingles. Gave me the old goosebumps.
It does.
The horripilation, is that right?
Oh yeah. Glad to have done that.
Horripilation, that feeling you get when you hear music and it makes you get that shivery thing.
I love that word. That is really horripilation.
Horripilation, yeah. Emily taught me that.
That's good. That's a good one.
Very, very good. And the thing I found out this week was, the actual date of the robbery, which is 26th of September. So it'd be 250 years ago this September. And then raising the gibbet, I think it was the April the 9th or 8th next year. So That's the 250th anniversary that somehow we should mark. I think.
Yeah, the April one when there actually are bluebells.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, that would be really evocative, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I played it to my brother, and he said it
Brilliant.
reminded him of The Grave. You know that song by Don McLean. Have you heard that?
I don't think so.
No, no.
Dug him had flowers. Have you heard that before? Oh, it's good, but it's funny because I had exactly the same thing in my head, and it just sort of transmuted itself to my brother, which I thought was quite nice. It was exactly what I was going for.
It's great, mate. It's great. It's a beautiful song. It's beautifully written, and yeah, it's very atmospheric. It's very poignant, and yeah, it's definitely got to make its way onto the next album. I think
Yeah,
the contenders for the next album are coming in thick and fast.
yeah, exactly.
It's gonna have to be a 50-track album, I reckon.
It'll be a triple CD, but
Yeah, to fit everything on there. Yeah, we're gonna need to do that. Yeah.
So that's all the things that we were going to talk about. Does anyone want to sing something else? I feel like you're like leaving it on that slightly depressing note. Just a good old chanty might be nice. That's completely off topic.
Yeah, and if anyone's got any requests, stick them in the chat.
I've got one. Is it 10,000 miles?
Pardon?
Is it 10,000 miles?
Oh, Jesus Christ, Johnny, you put me on the spot now.
Or is that? What do you think?
Oh, you're sitting up. You're sitting up straight.
Yeah.
No, it's only because
He's
I was
sitting
being
up.
sort of relaxing and lulled in the sense of security of I'm along for listening and chatting tonight.
Yeah, I don't have to do anything. Yeah. What do you think? You up for it? You don't have to.
Yeah, if I can remember it. As we know, my memory is not the best, and it's not been exercised very well over the last couple of months. So I'll see what I can do.
We can make it up.
I usually do, yeah. Right. Are you all on mute? Sing ho for a brave and a gallant ship and a fast and favouring breeze and a bully crew and a captain too to carry me o'er the seas. To carry me o'er the seas, me boys, to me true love far away. For I'm taking a trip on a government ship 10,000 miles away. Then blow your wind tie-ho, and a roving I will go. I'll stay no more on England's shore to hear the music play. I'm off in the bounding main, and I won't be back again. For I'm on the move to my own true love 10,000 miles away. My true love, she was beautiful, my true love, she was gay. But she's taking a trip on a government ship bound out for Botany Bay. Bound out for Botany Bay, me boys, and though she's far away, I'll never forget my own true love 10,000 miles away. Then blow your winds high-ho, and a roving I will go. I'll stay no more on England's soil to hear the music play. I'm off in the bounding main, and I won't be back again. For I'm on the move to my own true love 10,000 miles away. 'Twas on a summer morning when I lost Tommy Meg. She'd a government band around each hand and another one round her leg. And another one round her leg, me boys, as the big ship left the bay. Adieu, she said, remember me 10,000 miles away. Then blow your winds high-ho, and a roving I will go. I'll stay no more on England's land to hear the music play. I'm off in the bounding main, and I won't be back again. For I'm on the move to my own true love 10,000 miles away. Well, I wish I was a boatswain boat or a sailor without fear. For I'd man a boat and away I'd float and straight to my true love steer. And straight to my true love steer, my boys, where the whale and dolphin play. Where the whales and sharks are having their larks 10,000 miles away. Then blow your winds high-ho, and a roving I will go. I'll stay no more on England's land to hear the music's play. I'm off in the bounding main, and I won't be back again. For I'm on the move to my own true love 10,000 miles away. Well, the sun might shine through the Hampton fog, or the Arun run quite clear, or the ocean brine turn into wine, or Steve forgets his beer, or Steve forgets his beer, me boys, or the landlord's quarter pay. But I'll never forget my own true love 10,000 miles away. Then blow you winds high ho, and a roving I will go. I stay no more on England's shore to hear the music play. I'm off in the mood, bound in pain, and I won't be back again. For I'm on the move to my own true love 10,000 miles away.
He's still got it.
It's funny. It's the only thing I sort of misremembered. I think I sang 4 different versions of the chorus and I forgot it along the way. So, versions relatively intact.
Great song.
Yeah, the brain's still working, Dave.
Very good. I think that's pretty good. Place
So
to leave
we've had a request in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Hey, to look? No. Well, have we all sung a song? Has Chris sung a song?
Chris hasn't sung a song yet, and Graham hasn't sung a song yet.
And we have also had a request for Ebb and Flow. We've had a request for Ebb and Flow in the chat as well.
Well, I've done a lot of singing, so I feel like someone else should sing something. I'm going to cop out of that.
Let's get Chris to do a turn.
I'll do a smuggling song if you like.
Yes,
Not a
please.
smuggling song, a poaching song.
Poaching song.
Poaching song. There you go. Yeah, poaching song.
This is William Taylor, and this is from an old record recorded by Pop Maynard of Crawley when he was 90. So I won't try and authentically recreate a 90-year-old's voice. Ye subjects of England, come listen a while. I'll tell you a story may cause you to smile, concerning some poachers and keepers also, who fought in our cover some winters ago. Now when we go in, lads, good luck to us all. Our guns they will fire and the pheasants will fall. But in less than 10 minutes, 12 keepers we spied. Begone, ye bold poachers, how dare you come by? Said a one to the other, now what shall we do? Said a one to the other, we all shall stand true. And they did agree for to all stand as one, to fight those keepers till the battle was won. There's one William Taylor, he'd not run away, when on him 5 of these keepers did play. Young Taylor being weary, he sat down to rest. Young Taylor was taken, though he fought the best. The judges and jury unto him did say, if you will confess now, your sweet life will save. But no, then said William, that won't do at all. Now seeing how you've caught me, I'll die for them all. But no, said young Taylor, that won't do at all. Now seeing how you've caught me, I'll die for them all. There's none like young Taylor, no, never was yet. There's none like young Taylor, no, never was yet. There's none like young Taylor, you keepers all know, who fought in our covers some winters ago.
Yeah.
Bravo, mate.
Love it.
There must have been smugglers' songs like that, but
Yeah. Who knows where they are?
Dead.
yeah.
Yeah, yes, sorry. Oh, lovely. Anyone else got a burning song in their heart? Anything they want to?
I think Graham should do one.
I tell you what Graham should do, if he's up for it, and I think he did this in the feed the other day, but
In the Oxford.
it would be good to do the Fox.
I could do the Fox, or I could do Acre of Land.
Oh yeah. Yes, do acre of land, because this one, Giles at Bury wants to teach the children there, because he likes this one as well. So yeah, do it.
Well, Graham.
Okay, I'll do acre of land then. Yeah. Okay. All right. My father had an acre of land, hey-oh, sing I. My father had an acre of land and a bunch of green holly and ivy. I built it with a bunch of green ivy. He sowed it with a pepper box. Hey-oh, sing ivy. He sowed it with a pepper, small-tooth comb, ivy. He arrowed it with a small-tooth comb and a bunch of green holly and ivy. He rolled it down with a rolling pin. Hey-oh, sing ivy. He rolled it down with a rolling pin and a bunch of green holly and ivy. He reaped it with the blade of his knife. Hey-oh, sing ivy. He reaped it with the blade of his knife and a bunch of green holly and ivy. He threshed it with a wad of straw. Hey, sing ivy. He waved it on the brim of his hat. Hey, oh, bunch of he sent it to market on a louse's back. Hey, oh, sing ivy. He sent it to market on a louse's back and a bunch of green holly head. Hey, oh, sing ivy. And now the poor old man is dead. And a bunch of green holly and ivy.
So Graham, number one, that was brilliant, and number two, that was for other reasons unintentionally brilliant, because your connection went a bit weird, which meant we got half an extra the next verse in with the verse before, and I think it really will, when you listen back, it will really appeal to your electronica sensibilities, because it was
the dub remix.
Holly and Ivy feedback loop.
dub remix.
I do love that the person who is the actual IT person.
Well,
always has the
that's
best
the
connection.
that's the broadband. That's the
Oh, he's gone
well, you know, that's
completely.
Yapton for you.
That's Yapton, yeah. There you go. It's the black dog coming and chewing up his. Oh, he's gone. Oh, he's back.
Yeah, and he'll come back. I mean, I might be in that scenario in a second myself. My internet's been cut off, so I am tethering via my phone. My data may run out at any point, but we'll.
With that in mind, and with our internet being chewed, the internet wires being chewed by the black dog as we speak, it is probably time to end the live stream and to thank the people who have come and listened on their devices, and to say we will come back in a couple of weeks and do this again, I think, because it's good fun.
Yeah, I don't know what the subjects will be.
I don't know. But
how about shanties?
Johnny, and all
Shanties, yeah.
This is shanties next time, yeah?
yeah,
Sometime next week for a few sea shanty.
Yeah.
See,
2 weeks. 2 weeks, Steve.
2 weeks. Give it a couple of
2
weeks.
weeks.
Even wanting
Okay,
more.
sweet. Can I just add, as if I haven't added enough tonight, can I just add, if you are watching via YouTube, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please join our Facebook group and follow us on Twitter. It really helps. It helps us get connected to other people and get gigs in places that are good for us to get gigs. So, yeah, if you've enjoyed anything tonight, please, subscribe and do all that stuff.
And I should also say, I just want to plug Chris's website one more time. It's so brilliant. There's so much great stuff on there. It's called South Downs Generations. And there's loads of great stuff. If you're interested in the South Downs and the history of the South Downs, there's current oral history going on as well, which is kind of, all history in the making. There's loads of great stuff. So I recommend that wholeheartedly. It's a good read. Some great. There's another really, really good story that we didn't share. That's on a manhunt over the Downs, which is fantastic. It's recounted by a fantastic character.
I think we're struggling connection-wise.
Yeah.
All right, time to all right, I'm going to start live stream. Bye, everyone.